How's it going, everybody? Got another video for you tonight. If you didn't catch my video earlier, it was removed from YouTube, but it is still on the Almost Intellectual Facebook page. You can check it out there. Basically, I just overviewed the shooting that happened yesterday in Albuquerque at the protests of the Juan de Oñato statue removal. Basically, this guy, Stephen Ray Baca, showed up, and he was somewhat aggravated. There's a lot of speculation about they might have been hitting him first, that a person blocking him in the video, a woman that he threw down, was elbowing him. I personally cannot tell in the video. It is a little too grainy for me to tell. I got bad eyes, so I'm going to go ahead and just say that everybody who's involved in the actual fight later on should be implicated. Because you can't just chase after a dude like that, and some people are saying that it would be lawfully to detain him, when that's not true. People can't just detain other people. They can make a citizen's arrest, but citizen's arrest laws are very loose about whether or not you're actually allowed to detain somebody. If they are actively being violent towards you, then yes. But he was trying to walk away. When they basically jumped him, there's a portion in the video that was... There's a portion missing out of the video, but an undercover cop was apparently there observing the situation, and he said that as Baca attempted to leave, some people from the protest started following him and badgering him, and that's when he pulled a can of pepper spray out of his back pocket, sprayed it towards them. At that point, our video picks back up again, and that's when... you can see one of the men drop his skateboard or longboard, tackle Baca, and then the other man pick it up and start swinging it at him. There's also some speculation that that other man who got shot possibly had a knife. I cannot corroborate that either. It is still too grainy, and, well, there's no police report showing that a knife was ever picked up from the scene, so I cannot corroborate whether or not there was a knife. What I can corroborate is that he did hit him in the head with a freaking longboard. And any of you people that have ever skateboarded or anything like that, those are metal trucks. Those things are pretty jagged, and could definitely be used as a deadly weapon. So I want to show you some of the news articles that are going around now, and some of the misinformation that the news is putting out, and some of the knee-jerk reactions from our Governor Luann Grisham here in New Mexico. Let's go and check it out. Hey guys, if you want to see more like this, please share and subscribe to the YouTube page. The Facebook page, definitely to follow that. But sharing these videos is really going to do the most out of anything. I really appreciate you guys watching it, and I want to keep doing this for you guys, but I need you to keep sharing my stuff so that this page can keep growing, getting bigger, and eventually we'll be reaching a much wider market. I really appreciate you guys. Keep it up. All right, everybody, we're going to start with something a little bit refreshing. This article from KRQE, earlier their news was garbage, by the way. It was absolutely garbage. They were not putting this event into the proper light. Maybe they saw one of my videos and decided to change it. I highly doubt that, but... Anyway, so this article is actually pretty decent. According to criminal complaint, the alleged shooter of a man during the protest in the Conquistador Juan de Oñate statue near Old Town in Albuquerque was pursued by other protesters before the shooting. In a criminal complaint, police report the incident happened around 7:15 p.m. on Monday, June 15th, when the demonstration started to escalate and protesters began to attempt to remove the statue. So, this article actually paints it correctly, that the demonstrators escalated the situation by attempting to remove the statue. That is a criminal act, by the way. That's defacing of property, public property. So they kind of started it, and then that's when this man Baca reacted, in my mind, a little bad and started pulling protesters off the thing, and it's like, no, dude, you should just step away. For example, the New Mexico Civil Guard, which Luann Grisham seems to want to paint in a very bad light, they actually did step away and just allow the protesters to tear it down. They just... Excuse me. They were just there to be civil. To keep everything civil, just as in their name, New Mexico Civil Guard. So, documents state that cell phone footage that was captured by a bystander showed a male individual in a blue shirt, later identified as Stephen Baca, appearing to protect the statue. Baca was also allegedly recorded leaving the area and interacting with the crowd, though the complaint states his type of interaction is unknown at this time. And then this is where it picks up with the undercover police officer I told you about. He allegedly observed several members from what appeared to be the main protesting group pursuing Baca on foot as he backed away from them. The detective states that Baca then used pepper spray on the crowd. So that was not in any of the videos, so I can't, I'll just call it alleged as well because I can't confirm it in any way. So this is where, once again, they actually got some real good reporting. The complaint states that Baca was pursued by the crowd who began striking him. A male individual with a green longboard attacks Baca, who is then tackled to the ground by the male. A second male dressed in all black then reportedly grabs the dropped longboard and swings it towards Baca's head. And during this time, I will literally say 1 second, less than 1 second after this time, a series of gunshots are heard and the longboard is dropped to the ground. The complaint describes Baca as being recorded holding a black semi-automatic handgun. Lily, get your butt out of the way. So there is one portion in here that I didn't quite like, though. Basically, they leave out that police department units arrived at the scene and detained Baca while the victim received emergency medical aid and was transported to a hospital. They say that the man received aid by other bystanders in the crowd. Well, that's not 100% true. In fact, one of the New Mexico Civil Guard members is seen giving him aid, and the other New Mexico Civil Guard members at that time are detaining Baca, making sure that no other shots are fired and making sure that the protesters do not escalate the violence on him as well. So basically, the Civil Guard did what the jobs of the cops. They provided emergency medical aid to the man on the ground that was shot, regardless of whether or not they agreed or disagreed with him. And then they moved on, and then while the other guys detained a person that they probably agree with, but he did a wrong thing, therefore he should be detained until police arrive. Well, it was hard to determine for them at the time whether it was wrong. Either way, if you pull your firearm and shoot, you're going to get arrested. You need to be detained to make sure that it was a justified shooting. If it was justified shooting, you got nothing to worry about. And in the video, Baca appears to have nothing to worry about, considering that he lays down gets down on the ground. And even in this article, I believe it says that Baca can be seen manipulating his weapon and then setting it on the ground. I'm pretty sure that's him removing the magazine and decocking the thing. So this area also mentions, this article also mentions that only 4 spent cartridges were found. So it says here, due to his injuries, the victim was unable to be interviewed by police. Authorities collected a firearm at the scene in addition to 4 spent ammunition casings. Ammunition casings. Okay, so basically, he only fired 4 rounds. I heard 3 in the video. I guess the 4th one must have been muddled by all the screaming and ridiculousness. But we have several other articles saying 5. Was it 4 or 5 rounds? Some said 3 even, as well as I observed. So this is very confusing. All right, everybody, our second article here is also from KRQE. So this first part, Albuquerque Police Department has identified the man arrested in connection to the shootings of protester near Old Town on Monday, June 15th. Video posted on Facebook shows protesters trying to tear down the statue of Conquistador Juan de Onate on the corner of Mountain and 19th Street. And then this is where the lies begin. Shortly after, APD says an armed man militia calling themselves the New Mexico Civil Guards fired shots at protesters. One person was hit and is now fighting for their life in the hospital. APD never said that. APD, at best, said that they were investigating a connection to a possible militia group, but they never said that a militia group fired shots at protesters. This is just an absolute lie right here. I don't know where they got that information. They really need to fact-check their sources better. Once police arrived at the scene in armored vehicles, cell phone video sent in after the shooting shows members of the Civil Guard on the ground getting handcuffed. Witnesses in the scene tell KRQE News 13 dozens of individuals called APD for help before the shooting as tensions rose, but police arrived after the protester was shot. I wonder why. Maybe because all these protesters keep saying that they don't need police. So when police get a call from them, they're very unlikely to go, as it seems like it might just be a baiting trap to get the police to go ahead and use whatever force that they were going to use. It just seems like a trap. So no wonder the APD didn't show up until after gunshots were heard. So APD reports they have arrested 31-year-old Stephen Ray Baca in connection with the shooting. Baca is being booked into Metropolitan Detention Center on a charge of aggravated battery. APD reports the shooting is in active investigation. It remains unclear if Baca was part of the armed militia group. So, let me go ahead and show you this. There's a lot of, from New Mexico Civil Guard, Curry County, there's a lot of speculation encircling the shooting in Albuquerque. I want to let everyone know the shooter was not a member of NMCG. Our guys held him at gunpoint until the police arrived. NMCG was not involved in the shooting. It was a moment of chaos, and our members took point to prevent any more rounds from being fired and to stop the angry mob from continuing to attack. An edit added later, our members had stepped away from the protesters, stepped back to watch them pull the statue down. They were nowhere near the shooter. They ran towards the shooter when they heard the shots, disarmed the shooter, preventing any more protesters from being shot. They circled the shooter to prevent any of the protesters from continuing their attacks. Our members did not pick a side. They stopped the violence on both sides. So, what's going on here, KRQE? Are you just lying? Because New Mexico Civil Guards fired shots at protesters? That's not true. It never happened. Anyway, well, there's just one of them. Let me go ahead and go to this next article with the Albuquerque Journal. This one's a little bit shorter, kind of sweeter. Basically, a former city council candidate has been arrested and charged after police say he shot and critically injured a protester during a demonstration calling for the removal of La Jornada sculpture in front of the Albuquerque Museum Monday night. Stephen Ray Baca, 31, was booked into the Metropolitan Detention Center early Tuesday morning. Blah, blah, blah. We already heard all this stuff. Police say 39-year-old Scott Williams was shot several times in the torso and is critical but stable condition at the University of New Mexico Hospital. Laura Shore, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Or middle name there. Laura Ives, an attorney for the family, said Williams has devoted his life to seeking equality and justice for all. So why did he hit him with a skateboard then? That doesn't really seem like justice for anybody. Sorry, a woman was thrown to the ground, not injured at all, so you're going to use a deadly weapon on a person? And don't try to say that a skateboard is not a deadly weapon. It absolutely is, when used correctly. So this article completely removes any of the context of the situation. Which, by the way, my video was removed from Facebook due to contextual issues. So why is the Albuquerque Journal able to just go ahead and post this non-contextual bullcrap? It literally has nothing to do. All it shows is the shooter. That's it. It doesn't show anything that this man, Stephen Baca, down here did. Okay? Or, sorry, that this man, Scott Williams, did. Stephen Baca is this man here who shot him. So, let's move on to the next one. Horrified and disgusted beyond words. This is the one that ended up in the newspapers. Once again, from the Albuquerque Journal, one man was shot in Old Town as a protest over La Jornada sculpture in front of Albuquerque Museum erupted into violence Monday evening. They don't really say how it erupted into violence. So that's kind of weird. The shooting occurred during a clash following a peaceful protest to remove the controversial sculpture, a monument that features Conquistador Juan de Onate. The FBI is assisting the investigation, according to an APD spokesman. U.S. Senator Martin Heinrich, meanwhile, called on the U.S. Department of Justice to investigate the shooting. There's really not that much to be investigated unless we want to get the guy off. I guess if they really do try to charge him with murder or something, yeah, we will actually need the U.S. Department of Justice. The night began with peaceful protests and prayer, but tensions began to escalate when protesters took a pickaxe to the statue and members of a heavily armed New Mexico Civil Guard, a civilian group, tried to protect the monument. Okay, so this was actually updated. When I read this earlier today, back when most other people read it as well, they left out the part about, but tensions began to escalate when protesters took a pickaxe to the statue. They literally just said, the night began with peaceful protest and prayer, but tensions began to escalate when members of the heavily armed New Mexico Civil Guard, a civilian group, tried to protect the monument. So they left out the part about protesters illegally defacing a public monument, okay? It is a crime. So, and they did not try to protect the monument. They actually stepped back. They tried to protect the monument maybe at first, but then they stepped back and allowed it to happen, and then that's when Baca stepped in. So it was not the New Mexico Civil Guard who created this. It was probably just Baca and the protesters, okay? Okay, this is the part that really matters to me. Okay, Governor Luann Grisham and other officials condemned the violence and those who instigated it. Luann Grisham saying, although we are still learning more about the situation, I am horrified and disgusted beyond words by the reports of violence at a protest Monday night in Albuquerque. Luann Grisham said late Monday in a statement, the heavily armed individuals who flaunted themselves at the protest, calling themselves a civil guard, were there for one reason: to menace protesters, to present an unsanctioned show of unregulated force, to menace the people of New Mexico with weaponry, with an implicit threat of violence. It is on its face unacceptable. That violence did indeed occur, is unspeakable. Okay, so, Luann Grisham. Number one, the New Mexico Civil Guard never got violent with anybody. They never laid... Okay, one guy laid hands on somebody. But in the Twitter video that I watched, the protester who's taking the video points his camera down right when they say that get your hands off him, get your hands off him. So there's really no video evidence that these New Mexico Civil Guard ever laid hands on a person. And to be honest, watching the hour-and-a-half video that I watched, these guys were pretty civil like the entire time. They didn't curse. They didn't scream. In fact, they actually had conversations with many of these people. One of them even complimented one of the protesters' beanies or bandanas. I'm sorry. So these people were quite nice. In fact, they even gave medical aid to the man who was shot. If you all watch the video, the man in the camouflage and the hat and the mask that goes down to provide medical aid for the man who was shot was one of the New Mexico Civil Guard. So to say that they were there to with an implicit threat of violence is just absolutely wrong, Luann Grisham. You are a liar. I don't know how else to say it, okay? So, Mayor Tim Keller reacted swiftly following the shooting, tweeting that the city would be removing the statue until appropriate civic institutions can determine the next steps in order to contain the public safety risk. You know, I'm not really against that. That kind of makes sense. It's like he's not giving an idea that he's going to destroy the statue or anything. Hell, it might even get put back up when all this is over. So, Keller continues to say the shooting tonight was tragic, outrageous, and unacceptable act of violence, and it has no place in our city, the mayor wrote in a statement. Our diverse community will not be deterred by acts meant to divide or silence us. Our hearts go out to the victim, his family, and witnesses whose lives were needlessly threatened tonight. All right, so all those witnesses that their lives were threatened, they got themselves into that situation, okay? They attacked this man while the man was trying to leave. Okay, yes, there was an altercation before that. Sure, but the man was now trying to leave. They should have just done what they said in the video, get his license plates, let him go. He'll get arrested tomorrow by the cops. All right, everybody, so that's all the articles I got for you for tonight. Basically, the news around this is going to be really, really, really weird. We need to all be watching very closely because this has gotten messed up, okay? A lot of people have had misinformation out there. Luann Grisham apparently doesn't even know what's really happening. So let's keep an eye on this. I'll go ahead and keep an eye on it for everybody. And if I see any new updates, I'll go ahead and post it. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.